Oh, ho, 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 ho. Welcome to another Dead by Daylight Reviews. We have people who were bold enough to title their particular creations strongly, like original chapter idea. We got a truly random perk idea, Dead by Daylight's API, an Unbreakable Rework, all kinds of other things, etc., etc. Um, this Jaikes forest, I'm pretty sure, come from another concept that I didn't go over, recently posted. So I'm assuming this common ammo person really wanted at least their survival concept to go or be looked at. So I guess we can go over that. This is going to be interesting. If it is truly exactly how they say, if this is truly an original idea, this is going to be great. If this is truly random, this could be great. If this is an actual nice API, it could be great. So I'm leaving it to them to determine whether or not this particular review session is going to be good or bad or not. First thing, Survivor concept, Jaikes Forest, or Jaquez Forest. I've already went over this, but let's see if anything's changed. Nope. Looks like it was updated just the comments. Even though it says post was edited on the 19th. The reason I didn't go over this, if you don't remember, was because of that statement right there, followed by that statement right there. I know that particular statement is part of this whole thing. However, that's very racial stereotyping, which is wrong. Because not all people like that. Worry about this. So let's just move on past that. I was hoping he edited it or something, or somebody commented or made him go back in and do something about that, but nope. It's still the same. So, never mind. He didn't want anybody to look at his stuff, apparently. He did get some comments and all of that, though. It took 38 to get that. But, you know, he did get some comments back on that. I'm not going to read the comments or anything like that, because, well, most commenters that comment on things like that have the same racial stereotypical biases. And I'm not about that life. Anyway, Unbreakable Rework, teamwork based. You must not have played Left 4 Dead there, but sure. Since it's been confirmed that hello Galanonim. Damn, you got here quick today. Nice to see you as always. So since it's been confirmed that a bunch of perks on both sides are getting reworked, immediately came up with an idea involving teamwork. You can heal others from the dying state as you're on the ground, but you can no longer pick yourself up from the dying state. However, you still get the increased recovery speed, and on top of that, you have a 50% healing speed increase. This does stack with We're Gonna Live Forever. Why would you ever take a perk that allows you to get up off the floor by yourself and get rid of the one thing people run the perk for? You can heal others from the dying state as long as or when you're on the ground, but you cannot pick yourself up. So the only thing you're doing is making it to where if You do something dumb and get yourself slugged, and then your other teammate does something dumb and gets themselves slugged. You can get your healing speed and all of that to get yourself up. It doesn't say anything about going up to the 99% that Unbreakable gives you, though. So you'll go up to like the 80%. And then you can top your teammate up. After they get up, they're just going to get you up. And then you're both going to get up anyways. So this particular perk, I don't agree with it because it ends up rewarding survivors for sloppy play. You should not have that many survivors slugged next to each other, or somebody's making a grievous error. Again, there's so many perks nowadays that reward survivors for the mistakes that they make on a daily basis, and it's kind of getting a little bit ridiculous. Perks like, oh, well, if I trade in front of the killer, I believe that everybody should be safe as I'm trading in front of the killer. No, don't do trades. Somebody lead the killer away, somebody else go for a save. Use the hang time that you have to your advantage. There's strategies, there's text, there's items, there's a whole bunch of other things. Instead of using your brain and learning these techniques, thinking about the ways you can save that teammate, and playing the cat and mouse game, everybody's making these perks, and they're trying to essentially have the game solve it for them. If I make a mistake and I trade and the other guy doesn't get away because I don't have borrowed time, and he ends up downing us both, and the third teammate comes over to try to help, instead of letting the snowball effect happen from poor decision making from 3 survivors now, I want to make it to where while that third survivor's getting their cheeks clapped, I can crawl over and pick up the other survivor. And then he can pick me up, and then we can get back into the game even though we made a grievous error. How's about instead of immediately going for an unhook and getting your cheeks clapped with the killer behind you, you run the killer while somebody else gets the unhook, or you hide, wait for the killer to leave, and then get the unhook. And if you're stubborn and you're just going to go for an immediate unhook anyway, run borrowed time or something to give the other person a chance to run away from you. So even if you both end up in a down state, you're at a distance between each other so they can go pick up the guy who saved you. You have a chance to escape with borrowed time. Borrowed time doesn't have a limit in activations, it just has a cooldown. So you can continuously keep giving borrowed time to different people, even if you're one of those stubborn people. And if that person runs a perk like renewal or second wind or whatever it's called, I think it's called renewal now, or, the perk where you break a totem and you can heal yourself, etc., etc., or any perks that assist them in escaping from when they're being farmed, essentially. That's what perks are for, to assist you in doing the things that you're doing, not to solve issues. You still have to have the skill set to use the pallets and windows and loops and all the other methods and techs and hiding spaces to escape. You still have to have that knowledge, but the perks makes it easier. Like Lithe, for example. If you have borrowed time and the killer's specifically chasing you, waiting out your borrowed time, you can time it with a Lithe to get that little extra distance, or smash hit. Or you can use your sprint burst off of a hook to get that little extra sprint burst, or you can use overcome, or dead hard, or any other types of things, or healing perks that'll heal you. Well, perks like borrowed time and decisive fix endgame issues. Yeah, exactly. You have decisive strike and things like that. But they're there to assist you and use your techniques. You can have decisive strike and you can have borrowed time, but if you don't know how to play the game, they're wasted on you. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody the first time after they're being unhooked waste a decisive strike on me out in the middle of a field, and me just catch up to them before they get to a loop and I bonk them on their head and then rehook them. It's like if you know the loops and the all of that and you have the techniques and all of that to support that perk, the perk becomes infinitely powerful. But if you don't have the basic techniques, then it's just like, what are you doing? You're just running a perk that's not useless or useful to you. You could use anything else besides decisive strike in that situation and get more value out of it because, you know, you don't know the game, you don't know the loops. So when I see perks like this, that's basically a save me because I don't know how to play the game properly. I can't knowingly say, yeah, that's a good idea to add into the game. And then the change Unbreakable, to where the whole idea of Unbreakable is to get past the anti-slugs and things like that. To where you can get yourself up and continue to go. And you can run that with Soul Guard and a whole bunch of other things if the killer's on your ass. Or on your cheeks. And stack that with, you know, a myriad of other perks to help you get away. But again, no matter how many perks you stack up, if you're not good at the base game of Dead by Daylight, you're not going to get away. The killer's just going to redown you. So no, I don't agree with this Unbreakable perk. It's an anti-slugging perk for a reason. If the killer leaves you on the ground, it should give you the ability to let you get up once, and then the recovery speed also makes it to where it goes from 32 seconds, which is kind of ridiculous because that gives the killer a lot of time, to 16 seconds. Perfect perk. I don't think it needs to be balanced with anything else. Well, I'd say it doesn't need to be nerfed with anything else, and it definitely doesn't need to be changed to a perk that cancels out the snowball effect efficiently. An efficient perk that cancels out the snowball effect. There we go. But then on top of that, he says rework, but he still added in the recovery speed. He adds in 50% healing speed increase, and he's added in a whole bunch of other things to the base perk. If you were to rework, like actually rework Unbreakable and make it a team-based perk, you wouldn't just change a couple of things in the lining and coding. You would literally take the perk, get rid of its base effects and all of that, and then you would design that effect to benefit the team better. Like, for example, a nice rework for Unbreakable would be that, well, a nice rework for the entire game, actually, would be to give each character a passive ability. Bill's ability would be that one teammate in the trial can get up from the dying state once. And that could be Bill's passive. So if you run the Bill, which has the Unbreakable effect and all of that, also you can't use the same character because that would add some more variance to the game and force people to not all run the same female characters. But beyond that, you would get the Unbreakable effect without having to run the perk, and that effect would go throughout your entire team. So if one guy's having a bad day and he gets slugged and all of that, and you know that somebody's running Bill and he can get himself back up, I mean, yes, the killer's going to be aware of that, but still, if he knows he can have that ability to get back up, it keeps pressure on the killer because he knows Unbreakable is in effect. And on the other hand, if the killer is paranoid, he might be apt to pick, you know, that guy up and then hook him, and then you can use that hang time and all of that as opposed to, you know, the snowball effect and things like that. So it's like, if you want to rework something, don't just change a couple of things in the perk. Go and rework the entire system. And I do truly believe that each character should only be selected by, because I mean, you got four people. If the four of you can't decide on different characters to select, because there's four main, well, actually, there's more than four main characters now that you get off the bat, but still, there's four characters readily available that everybody should be able to pick, and I don't think there should be identical copies of the same person in the match. It doesn't fit Dead by Daylight lore, it doesn't fit any of that. And if the person did find themselves in the trial as a doppelganger, wouldn't you think they'd freak out a little bit? You know what I'm saying? They were inside of a trial and all over. They were running, doing whatever they were doing, got adapted into the entity's world, and then next thing you know, you run into a copy of yourself dressed differently, bloody, torn up clothes and shit, while you just got there. That would be like a time paradox of sorts. If that's the case, the entity could just keep going back and pass and get a million megs and literally live off an infinitum of sources. He would have no reason to kidnap other people. He could just use one survivor and just keep duplicating them and keep getting the fear out of them. And that would be a satiant for the entity, and that would be the entity no more. So, like, bringing Dead by Daylight back into an actual game, like, a actual modernized game, because it needs heavy updates, because it's still a game from the past. It needs to be brought into the future. Giving characters passives that go throughout the entire team, or for that particular character in some cases, would be a lot better. Like, for example, you can give David, when he's on his last hook state, so once he's been hooked twice and he's been injured, no mither activates, to where he can't heal anymore, but he can also get himself up, and he has a whole bunch of other bonuses. And you can rework no mither to actually give David a fuck ton of bonuses when he's, in that death state. You can even give him the option to activate no mither if they want to heal up or anything like that. Just make the buffs worthwhile if you're going to do it like that, and rework no mither for David. And if you go through and add in a system like that and modernize the game and actually give the survivors an actual overall feel. So I'm not just playing my favorite survivor with the same set of generic meta perks. I'm playing that own specific, personalized, customized. When you play Meg, you were playing Meg. You're not playing a survivor reskin with the same perks. You're playing Meg. She has her own sort of animations, her own set of everything, and you can individualize each character and make them worthwhile. Modernize Dead by Daylight would be so good, and they would make so much money. You can make a loadout system and all of that people have been asking for a long time. You can change instead of all the survivors are just standing around a campfire and all of that, you can change that and have like basically training rooms. When you load into a game, you load in on the campfire and you're able to move around. A training map where you can hop windows, do any of that, or you can go to a table and adjust your build, things like that. And then the killer will obviously load into another area of their own particular client side, or their own little area, and they can chase like dummy bots and all of that to, like, the 60 seconds you wait in between lobbies, have like a pre-game thing. Like battle royales and Rocket League and damn near any other game that doesn't have a fast, queue system has nowadays. They give you the ability to browse, different things and different menus and go into the different training things and do all kinds of other things while searching for a game or waiting on a lobby. Modernize Dead by Daylight. That is what we need. And that would bring that game from the dark ages. I wouldn't even say it'd be modernized. It'd be like from I wouldn't even say dark to middle. It would be like, well, Dead by Daylight's so unique because they have a couple of modern things, like Sadako's kind of modern, but then most of its systems and all of that are still like baby. They're like ancient, back with the pharaohs and all of that. It's like it's a very ancient game, but it has modern aspects about it. And that's how they've slowly developed it over time. But it's about time that they just did a rework and just brought the entire game up to modern times. So as this rework sits, I definitely wouldn't do anything like this. I mean, you could probably heavily rework this and then rebalance this to make this its own perk on its own, or its own individual perk, and slap it to like a nerdy style of survivor. Because I mean, they're really, really, heavily nerdy, generally are weak and fragile by stereotypical. That's not exactly true, but I mean, if we're going by video game tropes. Video game tropes and by video game design, generally the nerdy guy is fragile. So I could understand the guy not being strong enough to pick himself up, but be strong enough to help somebody else up, and then they can help him in return. Or at least give him some sort of buff for the future. So that would be a decent perk if it was reworked and rebalanced for the actual main game. Not exactly how it's worded, but definitely don't change Unbreakable and do something like that. This is what I'm interested in. Dead by Daylight's API. I almost clicked on the wrong thing. So I've been learning Node.js lately and assigned myself the endeavor to create an API that serves Dbd data. What I made is an API that gives access to survivors, killer perks, items, and add-ons, a total of 874 documents that can be accessed through 26 Git endpoints. Fortunately, I haven't had time to update it for the mid-chapter, but it'll be done tomorrow. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Have a good one. The API can be accessed here. Well, what you should have did, and it would have saved you a lot of time, especially for an API, is get a hold of whoever the hell owns the fandom website. Get a hold of them. And if nobody holds a copyright to it, even for the better. And then, well, if you're not selling the API, then I guess it doesn't matter where you pull it from, as long as you give credit where credit's due. But still, if you can, get a hold of them and say, hey, can I make an API for the fandom website? Then you have all of these web pages, all of these things already situated out, perfectly designed, everything like this, that you could easily pull up through API. So if you wanted to know a specific thing about a specific character or a specific page or a specific perk, you can easily just use that API to pull the information from this website, which has basically everything you need to know about Dead by Daylight. That would be quick. Well, quicker. It'd still be painful to do because this has a lot of information on that website. But that would be the way that you would want to do that, as opposed to having made 874 documents and all of that. Which, I mean, to be fair, he probably just copied it off of their main site or the fandom page anyway and did it on his own, but getting access to their particular web pages and designing an API that updates itself when they update their page. You can literally just hook the API to the fandom website and then it'll do all the work on its own. If they add anything to the fandom website, it'll automatically update on its own. You'll have to keep maintenance on it every once in a while because, I mean, it will break. So, I mean, it's going to be something you're going to have to probably release an update for monthly to fix all the issues and everything that pop up from it. But once you get a solid API, then, You only have to update it, you know, every other month, then every 6 months, then maybe every year, etc., etc. That would be a high tier play. I don't know. I guess when people think of these things, they want to be an independent source and they want to use what they've learned to basically put it together to create, you know, a simple project, kind of like a hobby project. When I see aspirations for something, I always take it to the extreme and in my mind plans around how I can, you know, make this huge thing. Besides this YouTube/Twitch channel, I don't really care for that because I know I don't have the time or the personality to consecutively put out high quality content. Plus, I don't want to spend 8 hours a day recording and editing and doing all of that. That's not me, Chief. That's not me. I just leave it all raw. I do my females raw, I do my editing raw, I do my recording raw. Giggity. Anyway, Killer Perks Overhaul fan concept. I think this is probably a copy pasta from one of the other ones in the past, but I will look at a couple and see what they got. Beast of Prey. Hitting a survivor with a basic attack or special attack activates Beast of Prey for 40 seconds, granting the undetectable status effect. My question is, after you've hit the survivor for the first time, you think that it's actually fair to give yourself the undetectable status effect for 20/40 seconds? Because underneath it says alternatively it'll be 10, 15, 20 seconds. The whole point of Beast of Prey is to make it easier for you to get that initial hit. Once you get Bloodlust, you get the undetectable status effect. So if you were having trouble getting a hit on a particular survivor, or lining up your hatchets or anything like that, with a Huntress, for example, getting that Bloodlust here gives you the undetectable status effect, which gives you the ability to, you know, do your fakes and all of that, and the survivor can't see where you're coming from. They can only see you. So it makes sense getting it, you know, as you're getting Bloodlust and as you've been chasing that survivor for a while, instead of after the hit. If you hit a survivor and they run off into the distance, for example, drop the pallet and then they go on, you know, their way, etc., etc., generally that's going to end chase. Once the chase ends, that's the end of, you know, the bloodlust. That's the end of the undetectable status effect. So Beast of Prey is designed to help you get hits easier. So you can fake, you can move faster with the bloodlust, you can fake more efficiently, you can get to that particular survivor quicker, and hopefully get that first hit, or in some cases that down, and continue on, you know, your base game. Changing it to this changes the entire purpose of the beginning perk. Because after you get that hit, getting the undetectable status effect, I mean, you're basically just Ghostface or a pseudo Wraith or something like that at that point. You've changed it from a pursuing perk to a I hit somebody and I become invisible perk. Do you think that that's fair for the rest of the survivors in the particular game, and fair to Ghostface and any other, and Sadako and any other stealth perk or killer? So, I mean, 40 seconds is kind of ridiculous. 20 seconds is kind of ridiculous too. Wow, something bugged on YouTube, and I had Oates' chat under your video. That's funny. Is Oates online right now? Because if he is, I might stop by one of his streams or something like that. I know he's been playing the new killer and all of that in the other game. What's the other game called? I want to keep saying Dead Rising. That's not the name of the game. With the demons and the sacrifice, I don't remember the name. I don't even know. What's the name of the new game that just came out? It's not Dead Zone. It's not Dead Rising. It's not Call of the Dead. I forgot the name of the game. But whatever that game's called, he's been playing that. Dead by Rising. That sounds what's it called? Dead Ash. Whoops. I pressed Dead Ash. Evil Dead. That's what it's called. Evil Dead. He's been playing Evil Dead lately. And that would be interesting to watch. Also, I enjoy his Dead by Daylight content. He's mastered the basic mouse one killer technique. Like most of the people that play, you know, as high level as he plays. Where was I? I am Beast of Prey. Doing it like this changes the entire purpose of Beast of Prey, so I can't really say that's a good rework for it. Again, play Ghostface or anybody else that can just actively go in and out of the undetectable status effect if you want this. Literally, with this particular perk right here, I would never have any reason to play any stealth killers, because this is literally giving me the stealth status effect for 40 seconds. And that's after each hit. There's no cooldown or anything added to this. So every time you hit them with their regular attack or special attack, you got 40 seconds of undetectable. You're a stealth killer at that point. All the other stealth killers can just walk away in shame at that point, because I can run, you know, Bubba or any other type of, you know, killer now and have that same effect. It's not a good idea. Bloodhound, Pools of Blood. Bloodhound got an, oh, I can't say a rework sometime soon. It's been quite a while, but it's within the last couple of years gotten a rework. Pools of blood are shown in bright red. When you hit a healthy survivor with your basic attack, they are afflicted with a broken status effect for 30 seconds. What the actual hell is wrong with you, son? I'm gonna ignore this one just on the same basis that hemorrhage is a thing. So I'm going to ignore this particular perk, even though this was posted after all of that update and all of that. We're going to say no. Hemorrhage is a thing. There's no reason to give them the blood or the broken status effect and all of that. Bloodhound, I do believe it's a Wraith perk, if I remember correctly. Got buffed to actually do something. Yeah, bright red, but can be tracked several seconds longer than normal. No, it's the other perk. It's the other perk that got a buff. It wasn't Bloodhound. It's the other one. Okay. Bloodhound's still the same. So what this is doing is making the pools of blood. My goddamn mouse pad. It's like I have a breadcrumb or something on it, and my mouse is like scraping it or something. It feels weird. I don't like that feeling. Jesus, it's driving me crazy. It's making me stutter and everything. There. So you're losing the blood being on the ground for longer, which lets you basically track a survivor for essentially ever. And you're giving it that they're getting the broken status effect instead. If that survivor's hit and you're using, for example, Sloppy Butcher or anything that gives the hemorrhage status effect with that, you're essentially giving them the broken status effect at that time. As long as you stay on their cheeks, they're never going to be able to heal. They can't partial heal themselves back to full like they used to do. Obviously, the partial heals and all of that people were doing back to full wasn't a design that the game devs wanted you to be able to do. Obviously. If you're being chased by a killer, IRL, you're not going to literally stop, slam a pallet down, stop, and then slowly heal yourself bit by bit by bit by bit. It's not going to happen. It wasn't designed in the game to do, even though, the talented people that actually have the time to do it can do it, so they got rid of it. It was kind of about time that they did things like that. I can't tell you how many times I got into a gank squad and I had a whole bunch of people, be nuisances while the person that, I was trying to down was healing ever so slightly and slowly. And they would stop in front of me, take hits, and then use, other perks and all of that to get away quickly. And it's like, man, I had him there, and then they keep getting in the way and they keep body blocking you and things like that. That person slowly heals themselves up over time, and then they're running back out as part of their gank squad at full health, and everything just reset itself. That wasn't the intention of the game, for them to be able to reheal themselves. It was taken care of. Now you can apply hemorrhage, and that no longer is the issue. They have to stay for the full heal, or their healing starts to decrease. Makes sense. That's kind of how wounds work. Honestly, instead of the 50% reduction in healing that Mangled gives you, I would prefer it be 25%, and any rushed actions that you do pseudo reopen the wound and make it stack with hemorrhage as well. But Mangled's fine as it is. It doesn't really matter. But I mean, if you are mangled, you're not just going to have a 50% heal reduction. You know what I'm saying? Being mangled. Yeah. Let's not go into the super gory details. Claustrophobia. Whenever a gen is completed, survivors completed it are affected by claustrophobia for 60 seconds. Any windows, vaults that they use become blocked off for all survivors for the next 30 seconds. So this is the Trickster's perk? Is it the Trickster's perk? I don't remember whose perk it is. To where if you vault a specific window, or a window, the window blocks off for you. You're taking that particular perk or add-on or whatever the hell it is. I think it's Trickster related though. And you're buffing that to making it not unusable for all survivors for 30 seconds. And this effect lasts for 60 seconds. So you're taking that perk and you're kind of taking Bamboozle, and you were literally just having the survivor essentially bamboozle windows for all other survivors. That is a terrible perk idea. You have stepped on the toes of 2 to 3 perks that I can just think of just off the bat, and you've completely just ruined them. You just combined them all together and buffed them. Claustrophobia, the whole point of claustrophobia is, the fear of small spaces. So completing a generator and all of that being blocked off around the area that you in making you claustrophobic and fearful, made sense. Dragon's Grip. I have only gotten Dragon's Grip to work once, and I mean one time, out of the entirety of the years that I've used Dragon's Grip. It's only worked one time for me. After kicking a generator for the next 30 seconds, the first survivor interacting with it will scream, revealing their location for 4 seconds, and suffers from the exposed status effect for 60 seconds. Dragon's Grip has a cooldown of 60 seconds. Well, this is where you're fucking up. And let me show you why you're fucking up. Oops. Please, go back to normal. There you are. Now, if you pay attention here, Dragon's Grip activates for 30 seconds. Then, it gives the exposed status effect for 60 seconds. It makes the survivor scream and reveals their location for 4 seconds. So, 30 seconds of activation time. If they touch it, they scream, which reveals their location for 4 seconds, because, you know, the scream, and then exposes them for 60 seconds. The several seconds, I think Dragon's Grip's cooldown, is it 30 or 60 seconds? I don't remember. Now it has 80 seconds. 80 seconds of cooldown. There you go. So you got 30 seconds of activation time, 4 seconds of scream and location reveal, 80 seconds of cooldown time, and then the exposed status effects for 60 seconds. I remember how mad I was when I came back to Dbd after Blight release and I didn't know it existed. I was complaining how everything gave you exposed status effect. I remember not knowing what that effect did at any. But I know getting the exposed status effect and being confused on why I got the exposed status effect till I figured it out, it never really came back to haunt me. It really never did. So the difference is 30 seconds of activation, 4 seconds of screaming reveal, and 60 seconds of the exposed status effect with 60 seconds of cooldown. 60 seconds exposed, 60 seconds of cooldown. 60 seconds of expose, 80 seconds worth of cooldown. The reason why Dragon's Grip has an 80 seconds worth of cooldown because after Dragon's Grip activates for those 30 seconds, it goes on cooldown. Which it might even go on cooldown as soon as you use it, but after it goes on that, it goes on cooldown. 30 seconds of a survivor not interacting with said generator. The effect goes away, the skill goes on cooldown for, was it 80 seconds? 80 seconds. 30 plus 80 is 110 seconds, which is basically 2 minutes. Your average Dead by Daylight game lasts anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. Longer games can go longer. So with this particular activation time scheme and all of that, you can basically use Dragon's Grip once per generator. And that's how that was balanced in the long effect. Obviously, because Gen Rush strats and all of that and them changing things up, Dragon's Grip has become a little bit more, yeah. But I mean, it was balanced per gen. Taking this particular balance and giving it a 60-second cooldown. Let me go back to the other one. 60-second cooldown, and how you wrote this particular passage out, the exposed status effect being 60 seconds, but the cooldown being 60 seconds. If nobody touches this gen in 30 seconds and it goes on cooldown, a minute later, which would be a minute and a half in this case, you're going to have an activation. You're going to be able to get, what, 7 technical activations of Dragon's Grip in that particular moment. Now, because they've changed gen times and they have a bunch of speed up perks and they've adjusted things, I can agree that Dragon's Grip does need a sort of update to it, or upgrade to it. However, I don't think taking 20 seconds off of its cooldown time is going to do anything for you. Vice versa, if we go by how this is worded, as soon as this exposed status, well, basically this is going to cool down before this cools down, is what I'm trying to get to. If a survivor touches a particular generator within the 30 seconds, let's say you kick a generator, the survivor walks up and then touches it immediately after and gets Dragon Grip, for example. As the perk's going on cooldown for the 60 seconds, the exposed status effect is going to be also the 60 seconds. So as soon as that survivor stops being exposed, you can literally just walk over and use this again. There's no actual cooldown to the perk by how you wrote this. So the way you've balanced this, you might as well just say Dragon's Grip doesn't have any type of cooldown with it. Or you can combine, after, the exposed status effect goes, then Dragon's Grip goes on a cooldown for X amount of seconds and call it a day. Because of how this is wrote. And it's very similar to this. Very similar. They tried to take it word for word, but they didn't actually keep the same literary structure. The way this is worded, which I don't remember how Dragon's Grip works because I don't know if it goes on cooldown immediately or if it goes down after 30 seconds. But how this is worded, after the next 30 or after the 30 seconds, Dragon's Grip goes on cooldown, or if a survivor goes through the exposed status effect and all of that, it goes on to a specific cooldown. How this is worded, as soon as you kick that particular generator, Dragon's Grip goes on cooldown. So if you kick that generator, boom, 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 and nobody interacts with that in the next 30 seconds, you only technically have a 30-second cooldown to go after this, not after the 30 seconds. So this is worded wrong and makes you believe that you literally only have a 30-second cooldown. So if you kick a generator and a survivor interacts with it in 30 seconds, they're going to be exposed for 60 seconds, but you'll be able to use Dragon's Grip in 30 seconds time and be able to completely, keep using Dragon's Grip over and over, essentially every 30 seconds. I wait for a perk that will give you exposed status effect when you get healed and kill a terror radius. I've already did a review over that. I've already done a review over that. There is technically a perk that does that. It's not the exposed status effect, but I think it gives you the broken status effect. Or something along those terms when you heal somebody. There was a concept that did that exact thing you say, but I think there is a perk that Pseudo does that. If you heal in the killer's tear radius. I don't think it's the exposed status effect, but I think it is a perk. I want to talk with that person, I know, right? That's Pyramid Head stuff. Anyway, moving on. Dragon's Grip really isn't a Dragon's Grip. They literally just lowered the cooldown timer and then broke the literary sentence of it. So, I mean, it's essentially the same. Don't worry about it. Dying Light. Each time you hook a survivor, you get 1 token. Survivors suffer from... Interesting. A stackable 3% penalty to repairing. Healing, sabotaging speed per token up to a maximum of 33%. I mean, obviously it's a maximum of 33% because that's 11 hooks. 12 hooks ends the game. So I don't know why you saying up to a maximum of 33%, and I don't know why you're double scaling here. This is an obvious thing. You don't need to say up to a maximum of unless you're limiting how many tokens that they can get. But I'm also like, why when I can just run Hex Pentimento and keep that 25% there the entire match? You got to keep in mind that when there's 1 survivor left, they're not going to be doing gens. So there's 3 hook states there that you essentially can just say are not very useful to you. So 30% is basically what you can get. If there's 2 survivors left and they have a repair speed penalty, it becomes that every man for themselves or we have to work together and finish this last generator. But if they have again, that would be 6 hook states. So 3 times 6 is, or not 3 times 6. No, it is 3%. Yeah. 3 times 6 is 18% speed. 18% of that speed is going to be off of a generator. If there's 2 survivors left and they have hardcore gen reduction, aka Hex Pentimento 25% plus an 18% from this perk, they're not going to do gens. So the only thing that you can really account for is half of this perk. And half of this perk is what you're going to get. The first 2 survivors getting hooked and put out, of the game. So, round about 6 hooks is the only value you're going to get out of that. 9 hooks is going to be the absolute most. And that's, if you're spreading the hooks out, you're getting 2 hooks here, 2 hooks there, 2 hooks on them. Right now, because even then, that'd be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So 8 hooks. 8 hooks is the most you're going to get out of any value to this, because afterwards the survivors aren't going to take the time to try and do the gen and get out. You're obviously going to be stacking this perk with other perks and all of that. So 4 of the particular hooks, that's 2 for each survivor or 3 for one and 1 for the other one, aren't going to be of any use. And that means 3, 6, 9, 12% out of that. So the max that you would really be getting out of this perk is 21%. I mean, it still ain't bad. It's the same as Hex Pentimento. So, I mean, I would rather run Hex Pentimento and Ruin or something like that instead. And just have all gens regressing. All of that instead of hampering the survivor's repair speed. So, Hexpentimento and Ruin run well together, and then most people generally run Pop as a backup. I mean, you can run this new Dying Light as a backup instead of Pop Goes the Weasel if you really wanted to go and be that kind of person. But Hexpentimento is probably going to be your better option. Hexpentimento scales 25% repair speed and 25% healing speed comes off the top of that next. So would you like a scaling type of thing? But once the scaling's gone, it's gone. Once the totems are broken, they're gone. You got to keep that in mind too. Or would you rather have a penalty to repair speed that builds over time? Regular Dying Light, because I guess since we're comparing perks to perks, that's Michael Myers' perk, right? Is it a Michael Myers perk? I can't even find him. There he is. Yes, it is a Michael Myers perk. Regular Dying Light, for as long as the obsession is alive, they have that penalty of all of that per token, up to that, or 11 tokens. The obsession is unaffected by the penalty, instead granted a permanent 33% action to unhooking and healing. So the only thing he's done is take away all the obsession things to where they're immune to this particular action. Basically, he took away the survivor's way to counter this, is what he did. As you can see, it's as long as the obsession's alive. So you can hook the obsession twice. But I mean, if you kill the obsession, all of this is undone. So anytime you run into the obsession, you have to essentially ignore them. That's the trade-off. That's the balance that behavior implemented. But again, besides running into the obsession and the obsession being like a body block or something like that, and just being annoying and getting in your way, you can still get the same penalty in all of this, but this is over time. Keep in mind, Michael Myers was one of the earlier designed characters. Very, very early designed characters back in the day when Hexpentimento and, well, Thatanophobia was still going strong back then. But back in the day when you didn't have Hexpentimento and all of this, dearth of generator bopping perks. This was back before, uh, Ruin got its balance and all of that. So this made a lot of sense. Back before Ruin got really balanced out and all of the other things came into effect. I remember when you used to have offerings that you used to pick up in your blood web that used to let you play Michael Myers for a game if you burned the offering. Which was a slick way to get past the, like, for example, if you were going to run Wraith, for example, and the other team is running a full party of flashlights. At that time, it's like, oh shit, they're all running flashlights and all of that. Nowadays, you would just go and switch up your perks. Back in the day, you could completely change up your killer. I could play an offering to play with Pig. I could play an offering to play as Bubba. I could play an offering to play as Michael Myers. They since then got rid of them, which was sad, which is why I want my alternative killer to kind of take that place so they can bring that back. But you could completely change who the killer, you were and counteract the situation, or you could try out a killer that you would think about buying. Which I wish they gave everybody offering tokens for the new killers. I mean, yes, a lot of people play the PTB and look at the information, but if you gave everybody like a token, just one free token, to play as the new killer for a game at max power, max stats and all of that, to see how good the killer can be or if it's not their cup of tea, I think that would be more welcome by the community than happen to go into the PTB, which I mean, they've changed it now to where the PTB just sends you to the PTB server. You don't have to re-download anything anymore. And I'm happy, but it's kind of like, why didn't you do that in the first place? You have the login data, you have all the, all of that data, you have kill switches and everything else implemented into your game. Why not send the connection to the PTB server and activate specific kill switches on that server, as opposed to making us re-download all the information for another server and the entirety of the game? It didn't make sense. Now you just click beta and it sends you over to the server and you don't have to re-download everything. I appreciate that. But it's like, again, they should have modernized their game a way, way long time ago. I've played games where I opted into the public test beta and it just sends you to another server. Why did it take behavior so long to get that implemented? Why? Because they're stubborn. They are a stubborn small company, and they would rather design everything system-wise in their game from scratch, because it's still an indie game, instead of using the items available to you. Or to them. That's why the cheating issues and everything else, when there was a huge line of hackers and everything, that popped up. Because instead of using and updating to the better version of Easy Anti-Cheat, they used a base version and then they tried to design code around that. Make their own code around that. Why? When people have almost perfected the anti-cheat to get rid of the baseline systems and all of that. Just use what's available to you and then add whatever code you want to that. Look at what good code looks like. And then you can design your own system and stop your paying your subscription or payments to the Easy Anti-Cheat. Work backwards. But whatever. Dying Light doesn't need to be changed. Michael Myers is an obsession killer. That's what he does. For penitents, survivors who take a protection hit suffer for all of that. The only thing that he did was... why would you give them hemorrhage and mangled? And broken? What? What? That's not how it is in the main game, right? I'm not going crazy. Why would you give somebody hemorrhage, mangled, and broken? What the hell? Where's Pyramid Head? That's definitely not part of the main game, that broken, right? I know it exposes them when they take a protection hit. Or not exposes, breaks them. There you go. Broken, not exposed. They would literally go down if it exposed them for taking a protection hit. That's dumb. But I know it breaks them. It breaks them for 80 seconds. Why? And all of this lasts for 80 seconds. My dude has no brain. If they're broken, they can't heal. If all of these effects last the same amount of time, all you need is the broken. Hemorrhage stops them from healing. Mangled slows down on how much they can heal. Broken makes it to where they can't heal at all. How do you fuck this up? This goes on forever, doesn't it? Oh, he literally went through. Bro, I'm gonna stop here. I'm just gonna stop there. This person, like many others who try to rebalance already balanced perks, failed. Just leave it at that. Failed. Oh! Oh, looky what we have here. Mm-mm-mm. Truly Random Park Ideas by Galanonim, 25. Hang on, let me get a drink of water. I'm gonna put on the heavy thinking cap. Just stay in game roulette. Would be cool to have some sort of randomizer tool in game to pick up perks and stuff. Until that happens, third party websites can help with that. Survivor perk, unknown path. Choosing this perk takes all 4 perk slots at the beginning of the trial. You are giving 4 random survivor perks. Entity rewards survivors for that choice with an additional effect that lasts 60 seconds. Additional effects, survivors using this perk won't leave any scratch marks. I think that's way too OP. Running through or running gen to gen, listening to noise, and looking at scratch marks are kind of the only couple of things that killers can do to actually find survivors, and making it to where they don't leave scratch marks. That's a terrifying thought when I think about survive with friends. Like, super terrifying. That allows them to be able to run and sprint everywhere that they're going without worrying about it. If they stun you or anything like that, like with a pallet, or if they blind you and you don't follow them by or specifically on noise alone, you'll lose them. If they hide behind walls and all of that, you'll lose them. They locker hop or anything like that, you'll lose them. I think not leaving any scratch marks is kind of extreme. Now, reducing the amount of time scratch marks last, I could be behind that. Scratch marks last like 10 seconds or something like that. That's crazy. Now, I could see you dropping how long scratch marks last for like 5 seconds or something like that. Leaving it random and everything like that. Since you can't select any other perks to actually assist scratch marks going down anymore. So yeah, halving the duration of scratch marks. I could agree with you there. And giving up your 4 perk slots to random. But I do concept and study breaks. Yeah, perhaps it should have half the minute instead. Now, my other question is when you say the entity rewards survivors for that choice with an additional fact that lasts 60 seconds, is this the start of the match? Because I'm assuming this is the start of the match. Ooh, my throat's getting dry. And then after the start of the match, when this time limit goes by, then it's good to go. Well, I guess I should actually make a coherent thought. Because I probably just confused the hell out of you when I talked about two different things. So, what I did there is I ran it through two scenarios, and I probably didn't explain that well. I ran it through the scenario as the start of the game, and I ran that through the scenario as during the game, is what I did there when I was talking about the 10 seconds the scratch marks stay up. I did both scenarios at once. I probably should have been more clear on that. But you know how I am. But at the beginning of the game, if it just lasts then, at the beginning of the trial, like it says, obviously, but 30 seconds is great. But if you're going to add in any other type of effect, you could also make it to where you just reduce the amount of scratch marks that the survivor makes throughout the trial by half for 5 seconds. If I clarified what I was saying earlier. Because I just thought about it and I was like, I probably just confused the hell out of him. Yeah, like the feather falling or lightweight perk. Yeah, that perk. Because I'm like, I just thought about what I said. And when I repeated myself, I never made the distinction. Because I said the effect should be halved. And then I said the effect should be halved in time. And I started talking about the 10-second the scratch marks last. And I was like, that's confusing as hell because I didn't separate those. But I think you get what I mean. Leaving it at the start would leave it to 30 seconds. Or you can make it throughout the match and just make scratch marks disappear 50% faster at 5 seconds. At first, I thought it's just 1 minute and it will quickly pass, but yeah, it shouldn't last as long as in the killer case. Yeah, 60 seconds is kind of wild. Because even if you do find survivors in the beginning, if you head towards them with a tear radius, they're just going to run and hide. And you'll know that they're nearby, but you won't know which direction that they went. And losing that precious time at the beginning could be an insta loss for a killer. Just why 30 seconds is kind of fine. That's travel time and a little bit of search time. And you can still recover from that, and I think it's well enough for the survivors. Then on the flip side of that, since you can't select whatever perks that you have, getting rid of the scratch marks duration for the instead of the 10 seconds, making it half to like 5 seconds. Well, 5 or 6 seconds, whatever PTP balances it as, I think would be a good bonus that you could have the entire match. So the killer can still see where you're going and all of that, and they can still chase you normally. However, if you do escape, it's easier. Obviously, the scratch marks are going to have to be brighter in retaliation to that effect, so there's going to have to be another negative that your scratch marks remain bright so the killer can see them easier, but, something like that. Killer perk wise, unknown influence. Same thing. Killer using this perks makes survivors suffer a 20% penalty for repairing, sabotaging, cleaning, healing, and action speeds. With that lasting a minute, I think the 30 seconds that the survivor gets is actually pretty high tier balanced. Because the survivors are going to have essentially a free 30 seconds of 20% repair speed penalty. That's going to be 6 seconds. So they'll essentially be at 24 seconds repairing on a generator by the time that effect wears off for them and they have no more scratch marks. Also, this will help the booners that like to run out and find a totem at the beginning. Unfortunately, as much as I hate it, it would help them do their thing easier without worrying about it. And a whole bunch of other things. And with that safety of being able to run around and getting those additional seconds, that should be canceled out by the 20% cleansing speed. Because I mean, 20% of 14's what? Three seconds? Three and some change? Or two and some change, technically, but like 3 seconds. That 3 seconds they got from running instead of being or having to walk everywhere is definitely worthwhile. Sabotaging, I don't think needs to be added into that. And healing, I don't think needs to be added into that. Now, you can add in like opening chests or something, but if you think about what a survivor will do at the beginning of a match for 30 to 60 seconds, they're going to either repair, they're going to either open chests, or they're going to cleanse or boon a totem in most cases. And if you do find a survivor and you hit them, you're going to be on their cheeks until you get that down. So I don't think it's really relevant to have the healing action speeds and the sabotaging. I mean, you never know. Maybe you get a quick down and a survivor will run over and sabotage the hook before you get to it. Who knows? But having all of that and then the 60 seconds. The 60 seconds. What can a killer do with 60 seconds of that effect? Because generally, as I always said, by the first time the killer downs a survivor and hooks them, you should have a bare minimum 2 gens done. So, technically in the first 80 seconds, the generator should be done. If a survivor has a crappy run with this perk in effect at 60 seconds, it'll give you a lot of time to get on other survivors. I think 60's fine. I don't see it being too much of an issue. Again, public test beta will buff out the time to what it needs to be. I think 60's fine for the killer. The only thing I ask is, what's the scaling? Are you going to scale the amount of perks that it takes? Are you going to scale the time the effect lasts? Are you going to scale the 20%? That's basically the only thing it's missing is scaling. I was hoping to be able to pick fun of you a little bit, but as always, you don't really give me any openings. Besides something basic like forgetting scaling. One day you're gonna forget, though. One day you'll forget. And then I'll be able to pick fun at you a little bit. Yeah, it would be preparation time. Yup. So yeah, killer's fun. It is pretty standard. That's what I was gonna say. It is kind of pretty standard at this point for you to forget scaling. That... But it's generally something that it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be scaled, but in Dead by Daylight, everything has to be scaled. It's kind of like a meme at this point. If you don't add scaling, everybody's gonna be like, dude, what's wrong with this perk? But yeah, scaling, maybe adjust that to like 30 seconds or something like that. And then you can leave this the same, or I just gave the suggestion of just making it a full game effect of half scratch mark duration. Because, I mean, you are giving up 4 potential perks, so that means you're giving up the Dead Hard and all the other meta perks. And could get something really bad in exchange for that. Now, what you could do for the Survivor, scaling-wise, is you can actually scale the type of perks, like the level of perks. Scaling 1 would be level 1 perk. Your second scaling would be level 2 perks. The third scaling would be full level perks. But that's also a method to gain actions when you make a mistake or something. People in the comments remind you about it. Yes. Yes, it is. I have indeed. I actually talked about that a lot in the past during my, I think I've talked about it during Q1 off too. How streamers literally act like they can't see something that's in front of them to trigger their viewers and make them get comments and all of that. It's so obvious that they're doing it. I don't see it, guys. I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, brah, it's been on the screen for 5 minutes. It's like, stop playing around and just press that damn button before I put my fist through my monitor. But it's so obvious that they're fishing for comments, acting like idiots and not seeing something that's in front. I swear, guys, I didn't see that. Uh-huh. Sure you didn't. Too easy to get comments. Where are we at? We're at an hour and a half. Oh, let's see. Well, I'm not planning on playing much Rocket League today because I have to get back to Aratus, Lord of the Dead. Last time, as soon as I finished the boss for the area, my power went out. So, whoop, I gotta redo that boss battle again. I also, once I get to the end and face that boss and beat him, I'm restarting on the highest difficulty again, so. There's also that. We're almost done, though. I might as well get the last 2 out of the way. We'll see if they're, worthwhile. Chapter idea, Divergent Destiny. I feel as though I've heard of Divergent Destiny before. I've already done this. The Weaver. Female, Egyptian, razor sharp scissors as a weapon. 24 meters, tear radius, speed 4.4 meters per second. Again, keep in mind that killers that have 24 meters tear radius and 4.4 meters per second movement speed generally means that they have some sort of weakness that needs to be covered, like the Trickster and his inaccurate knives, for example. They gave him a lower tear radius so he can get closer to you before he starts throwing his inaccurate knives. That's why his tear radius isn't 28, it's 24. There's some sort of gimmick that the killer has that gives them that lower tear radius. If not, you should be looking at around, 28 meters. Like, for example, Pyramid Head has a regular. We don't want to be here. First, I pull up Mama Huntress. Even though she's not necessarily the standard, she is kind of one of the OGs. She's able to have a 4.4 meters per second movement speed, and she has a 20 meter tear radius. But on top of that, she has a lullaby that has 45 meters. She has a gimmick that enables her to lose an extra one. Even though her hatchets are true and straight, she has to reload them, for example. Limited amount of them, she has to reload them at a locker. That's a gimmick. She can only throw one at a time. She has charge up time and all of that, and she slows down. She also has a lullaby that lets you know when she's within 45 meters of you. And all of these things added together and all the different gimmicks she has gives her 20 oh my god, I can't speak. 20 meters of a tear radius. Then we're going to go to the Death Slinger, because he is also one. Well, the dude literally has a gun, so. Death Slinger. Tear radius, 32 meters. Movement speed, 4.4 meters per second. He has a regular tear radius and a 4.4 meters per second movement speed because he aims his weapon, he shoots it, and then he can reload his weapon where he's standing. Range killer, doesn't matter what kind of range killer you are, instantly will drop you to 4.4 meters per second movement speed because you have the ability to strike farther. His tear radius, again, is standard because he doesn't need to go out of his way to reload any type of ammunition or anything like that. He comes in, he shoots. If he misses, he just reloads where he's standing, and then he can continue chasing and shoot again. There's no time sink waste there, which keeps him at a standard tear radius, but reduced movement speed because he's a ranged killer. Then the last person who has another interesting setup would be the Trickster, which I always talk about. His tear radius is 24 meters. Not only does he have a pseudo lullaby, it's not really like a huge lullaby, it's pseudo lullaby that goes from 8 to 40 meters, but his movement speed's 4.4. Don't worry about the throw state and main event and all of that for the moment. It's the fact that he has 24 meters tear radius due to the fact that his knives are not accurate when he throws them. And he has to, again, reload from a locker when he runs out of knives. So accuracy penalty, has to reload at lockers penalty. And I mean, when he's using his throw state and all of that, he does have a severe reduction in speed, which gives him the 24 meters tear radius. He has caveats and things like that. And he has things that are hugely negative, which gives him a 24 meter tear radius. It makes sense. So when we talk about tear radiuses and things like that, you got to keep in mind that your killer has to be designed around particular caveats and all of that to keep the balance of having to have a higher tear radius or not. This one's still bullshit though. Plague, 4.6 meters per second, 32 meters tear radius, standard, and then she can fucking vomit everybody and break them and continuously pursue. And they buffed her to where she doesn't even slow down when she barfs, or she doesn't slow down much if she slows down at all when she's barfing. Yes, I'm going to throw Plague in here because it pisses me off every time. Make her a 4.4 meters per second killer. I personally prefer Plague than Blight. That's fair. That's fair. That's just speed run the game. Pretty much, once you learn the bounces, it's kind of like, you know, how do they get away from you, honestly. But I had to throw my opinions in here. They should definitely drop her to 4.4 meters per second. I don't know why they haven't done that. The people that I face with the Plague They generally just walk alongside me till I break anyway, then they slap me as soon as I go into the broken status effect. Give me a little extra boost in speed. You know what I'm saying? Don't just let them follow me at 4.6 until I get to the broken effect and get clonked on the head by her lantern, mace looking thing. I'm always going to fight that. And just for you, why not look at the Blight too? He's kind of ridiculous as well. Blight, 4.6 meters per second, 32 meters hair radius. My dude, look at him. He's melting. He's got pustule or whatever they're called. Not the pustule. What's it called? I'm going to call it the serum. He has the serum and the blight and everything. His body's literally in process of either metamorphosizing or falling apart. He has this rush movement speed of 9.2 meters per second. Slow this man down to 4.4 when he's not dashing. He doesn't need all of this extra speed. He don't need it. Take him down to 4.4. He has a huge dashing, bouncing back and forth. And on top of that, this 32-meter tail radius, I think, can be better fine-tuned because he approaches you so fast. That divided by that is like 3-point-something seconds. Literally, he's to you, clapping your cheeks. I mean, he has to bounce every once in a while, but he's to you within 3 or so seconds after he starts running and you hear his tail radius. By that time, it's like, God dang, what do? Increase his tail radius ever so slightly so you have either more reaction time, and definitely should be 4.4, even though he's not a ranged killer. I could agree with that. Yeah, I'm all up for it. Where can I sign? And then there's one more person that I don't even remember who I was going to show. What nurse? Who else was I going to show? Was it Hag? I think it might have been Hag's who I was going to show. Yeah, it was Hag. Hag. Movement speed is 4.4 meters per second. On top of that, she is short. She is slow. She is short, which makes it hard for her to see, you know, in the grass, tall grass, things like that, through windows very well, etc., etc. She is short. She is slow. The only methodology that she has to move around quickly is by putting down her traps that she teleports to. Because she can teleport, which is technically a ranged attack, teleporting to an attack, they gave her 4.4 meters per second, and her terror radius is 24 meters. This is the only exception that I would generally say where they messed up a little bit with terror radius. They should definitely increase her terror radius to 28 meters. If the hag is walking her or moseying herself over towards you, or moving towards you, and she's setting up traps and doing all of that other things, I think you should be alerted to her a lot quicker, so you can formulate a plan to escape. Now, granted, putting it up at 28, it's going to take her 5 and some change seconds to get to you, which I mean is fine, because at 4.4, that divided by that, it's still going to take her around about, you know, a little bit of extra time to get there anyway than a regular killer. So we go 4.4 or 4.5 rounded up. 4.5 and that times 2 is 9. That times 2 would be 18, and then that times 3 would be 27. That's the type of math that I do. I just round that up to 4.5 and then just do it that way. And that's how you'll get your, well, that's how I get my numbers. Kind of an overestimation of it. But, more than enough reaction time to know that she's on her way and all of that. She has traps that she can put down along the way. She also has setup time at the beginning of the match, etc., etc. Her tear radius should either be 26 meters, but I would more happily agree with 28 meters. It should be more towards the top. She is extremely slow, so she can be avoided, but 24 meters on a killer whose range attack basically, I'm not going to say that you're going to get it every time and it's a certain hit, but it's a lot easier than lining up a huntress's hatchet or anything like that. And it's very easy to push survivors into the traps because the traps are huge. In the beginning, the traps used to be small, and it used to be hard to push them into the traps. 24 meters tear radius was fun, but now the traps have been giving such an expansive radius that survivors really can't miss them when they're running through that particular area. Giving them such a huge radius should definitely increase her tear radius. And that's one of the main reasons why. It ain't gotta be 28. I would rather it be standardized at 28 because Hag has been made easier to play. You ain't gonna be looping people. I can tell you that much. But if you play your traps down correctly, you can easily cut them off and get a hit off of them. Those of you that don't know, if you teleport and immediately swing after teleporting, you're actually pointed directly at that particular survivor. It's almost like an auto aim. And because the radius of the traps are so big, they can pick you up from a long, long way away. And that lunge is just kind of disgusting to where it'll clip you every time if you're quick enough. So, this is the only one that I don't agree with. There's no caveat anymore. Her inaccuracy or the small width of her traps that they used to be back in the day used to be the thing to give her 24 meters. Now that they have a larger radius and she's been changed ever so slightly, tear radius should go up. But anyway, let's actually go over this. And this is what we're going to be kind of looking for. To have that 24 meter tear radius in 4.4, we're going to be looking for some sort of caveat to accentuate such a small tear radius. I figured I would go over that before so people would know what I'm looking for. And when I say, that tear radius ain't quite right because this and that, and somebody else immediately be like, Q, you don't know what you're talking about. So and so has a tear radius of this and does this. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. So I try to alleviate any misunderstandings and arguments before they happen. Anyway, they did the same thing that I hate to see every time. Power, tangled threads. Tangled threads are all in your path. Let their screams of pain be a reminder that fate is not on their side. Good description. What does it do? I don't know. Only thing I know is special ability, String of Destiny. Change this word right there, and that's completely fine. Get rid of the word power. Change it with something else. You could use a dumb word like boon, or you can use the word like curse. Curse would work. Curse. Tangled threads. The tangled threads of fate are all in your past. Let their screams and pain be a reminder that fate is not on their side. Change that one word, and this would make so much sense. This is an introduction to everything that this particular killer has. It can be a divination. It can be a curse. It can be all kinds of other things, but leaving it as power and then immediately using special ability and then saying press and hold the power button. Your power should be associated with your actual power. This is a little bit closer because you use String of Destiny with Tangled Threads. So this is actually closer than most of the shit that, I have the disagreements with. Pseudo-acceptable. You're going to lose a point off of it, but it's pseudo, because you are using the same methodology of thinking. This kind of makes sense because all of the different threads and all of that. However, String of Destiny and then cut the cord. There's no other threads to go along with that. The tangled threads. So it's also like, if there's only one thread, that being the String of Destiny, then it's not tangled threads. It should just be tangled thread. Just one. But anyway, enough nitpicking. Special ability, also known as the power, String of Destiny. Press and hold the power button to lock onto the nearest survivor in your line of sight. What is line of sight? Line of sight could be the actual camera's line of sight. It could be your killer's line of sight. It could be anything that's on your screen. What is line of sight? And what's its distance? Is it like a stalker mechanic that's kind of close, or can it be way far away? They can be on the opposite side of a map, sitting somewhere that you can't even see them, but it automatically put them up or pick them up. What does that mean? Release the power button once locked on to launch an invisible string to the survivor, marking them. Why is it an invisible string? How fast does the string launch? Is it dodgeable? Once two survivors have been marked, they become bound. There can only be one set of bound survivors at a time. When they're marked and become bound, are they aware that they're bound? Or is this just something random that happens? Also, when you first shoot the string and you hit the first survivor, are they bound to you until you find a second survivor? Is does a red string get tied to your finger, or does it come out of you showing where that survivor is, where you can just follow the red string to find the survivor? Who is he bound to when you first hit him with something? If a bound survivor is injured, the other bound survivor is injured as well. If a bound survivor is healed, the other bound survivor is also healed. Once one bound survivor is hooked, both bound survivors lose the bound status. Well, the problem is if one's hit, one takes damage. So if you down the other one before the other one heals up, then both of them are going down. However, if they know your killer's power and they know that they're bound, they could just stick with another teammate, and the survivor that you're chasing, which is bound to another survivor, can just have his buddy sit in the corner and heal him. So you'll have one survivor working on generators, one survivor healing the other person that's bound as the other person takes damage while they're in a chase. So you literally have to down that survivor in 16 seconds after injuring him, or he's going to get health back. So, to prevent exploits going either way, you should make it to where if you hit one survivor, the other survivor takes 50%, and if they heal, they only get 50%. Meaning, if a bound survivor goes down, the other survivor will just get the deep wound status effect, half dead. And if the other survivor gets healed, the other survivor that's running around and doing all of that only gets a half a heal, where they have to find somebody to heal them up to prevent the obvious exploit of, hey, this guy's going to run the killer all game and the rest of us just sit there and just keep healing him every time he gets hit. 3 survivors can work on a generator, and if that guy gets hit, he lets go of this generator. The other 2 go around and heal that survivor up really quickly. And then they go back to 3 manning the generator. That's an exploit. that needs to be addressed. Or if you have a Bubba that just downs that survivor and the other survivor goes down, what do you do if you down that survivor and the other two survivors somehow manage to get that survivor on their feet? Does the other survivor get back up as well? Or, does he get off of your shoulder while you're carrying him? Because, he's technically healthy. What happens in that? Then after he's hooked, does he get full health when he gets unhooked if the other survivor gets healed before he gets hooked? What's going to happen during those unique situations? If this was thought through a little more, this could be a pseudo cool type thing, but it's not. It doesn't have a lot of thought and design into this, obviously. Special ability, cut the cord. Press and hold the power button when the maximum number of bound survivors created to sever the bond connection. Both bound survivors reveal their locations with a loud noise notification. Well, you already know where one survivor is, I'd assume, because you would be chasing them, trying to get the both bound survivors injured and or down. So cutting that bond connection and all of that only makes sense if you're using it like a radar ping if that guy escapes you or something to be able to refine them. So it's kind of almost pseudo like the doctor's static blast. You bound one survivor to the other survivor, you chase the second survivor. If the second survivor escapes you, you cut the bond between them, and then you find that survivor that escapes you and you continue to chase them. That's really the only use that I can see from that. Obviously, there's probably going to be an add-on or something that allows you to bond another survivor in, which is going to be an issue, but let's hope not. I don't really want to look through these. I'll look at the bottom. Bound survivors cannot heal other bound survivors or work on the same generator as other bound survivors. That's not very good for a pink add-on, but okay. Cut the cord causes 2 random survivors to become bound. So how do you go from a lackluster, underpowered thing to an overpowered thing? So the only thing you would do is bind 2 survivors together, hit one, cut the cord, which would bind 2 other survivors together, and then continue to go and down the other survivor. Or the easy methodology of this is bind 2 survivors together, down both of those survivors, then cut the cord, find the other 2 survivors as they're trying to heal, one of the 2, and then down them, and then you have all 4 people slugged. Duality of a man. Indeed. A weak perk to just a super overpowered perk. Perks. Morbid curiosity. It's a hex. This is supposed to be an Egyptian. It doesn't say pharaoh. So just an Egyptian weaver. Why would they have morbid curiosity? I don't get it. I mean, I guess. Beaver. Weaver. I hardly know her. If you hardly know her, why don't you weave her? I don't know. It's a bad joke. Hex. Morbid curiosity. After injuring a survivor, all other survivors in your tear radius gain a 9% hindered status until injured or leaving the tear radius for 8 seconds. So, with this particular perk, you walk in, well, you bind 2 survivors if you find them near each other, or bind one and then leave them alone and find another one. You bind that survivor, you hit them, and if you find multiple survivors at a generator, it's perfect. You can bind both of those survivors together, hit one of them, the other one's going to be slowed, then you just walk over and bop the other one, because he can't escape. That was going to be the quickest downs ever. And not only that, they keep this hindered status effect until they are injured or they leave your tear radius for 8 full seconds. So as long as you keep chasing that survivor, they're going to stay hindered that entire time. Because they ain't going to get that heal, I promise you. With you on their butts and them losing 9% of their speed. They're going to be a little over 3.6 meters per second. They ain't going to get far. So, no. I can't say that that's a good perk. Sealed Fate, you become obsessed with one survivor. If an injured survivor heals your obsession inside your tear radius, they gain the broken status effect for 60 seconds. If the survivor is healthy, they become injured. Well, if they get the broken status effect, they already are going to be injured. I mean, I'm not wrong on this, right? You can't have the broken status effect unless you're injured. So to give that to somebody means that they're already injured. So, I mean, I guess you can put that at the end, but I mean, it's already a guarantee. I don't, I don't see the value of this particular sealed fate doing anything for the particular obsession or anything. I don't see it as a good obsession perk. Just run Rancor. At the end of the match, you can just walk over, bop them, and then mori them. Gets rid of them altogether. You ain't got to worry about them throughout the game at all. Or you can run, save the best for last or something like that to have that enhanced speed. Now it's play with your food. Play with your food to have the enhanced speed and just never engage your obsession till the end of the game when you need to. There's all kinds of other different perks that you could run that's better than this. Because you have to be inside of their terror radius while they finish healing. So unless you have some sort of hemorrhage status effect, they can literally just 99% heal that person and have them heal themselves up. It's very common to find medkits and things like that out of chests and things like that. Or you can bring one into a trial. Medkits are readily available everywhere. If I have to 99% heal as a teammate because we're inside of their tear radius and all of that, I mean, I will. Because then they can finish the heal on their own. And that's going to be the bypass for this particular perk. But it's also random to be within the killer's tear radius while you're healing another survivor unless you've just unhooked them. So it's like I can't really get a full grasp on the usability of this. I mean, this is good if you're running it with like nurses calling. It would be the ultimate perk to go with that. But I mean, you would have to damage your obsession and then stay within X amount of range of them waiting. And they're going to hear the tear radius and all of that. So, I mean, on this particular killer who you know is going to run this perk, it's kind of useless. But if you use this perk on another killer, you could probably get away with some sneaky plays. Like that on Nurse is amazing. But this don't make any sense for this particular killer, who's basically reliant on bound survivors, survivors being bound together. Also, this killer should definitely have a higher tear radius. So they know that this killer's being on their way because you were bounding two survivors together. And if one survivor takes damage, the second survivor's taking damage. So if anything, you should have a slower speed and a higher tear radius because you're doing twice the work. But I ain't going to go into that right now. So this perk's not really indicative to the particular killer, but this would be a good perk if Nurse was to get a overview or an extra perk added in for her. Or Michael Myers or something, maybe, you know, something that runs a lot of obsession perks. Anything that's not a stealth killer essentially can use that. Countdown. This perk remains inactive for 300 seconds at the beginning of the match. So 5 minutes. Once it activates, the generators with the most progress regresses 70% instantly. If a survivor is repairing any generator when this perk activates, they suffer from the oblivious status for 30 seconds and have their aura revealed. For how long? For how long? This perk at the 5-minute mark of any trial. If you're running gen rush strategies and 3 gens pop at the beginning of the trial and your survivor's probably in their second state at that time, unless you have a very good runner, the first, let's say 2 minutes of the trial, 3 generators could be done. So you would be at about 4 generators unless the killer's really sloppy and getting ready to go on to your next. So gen rush strategies, this perk would probably interfere with them doing their last generator if the killer's on top of everything. A regular game, and what saddens me the most, by the time the 80 seconds goes by, so let's round that up to the first 2 minutes because survivors are really bad, 2 generators are going to be done. Another minute and a half would go by. They would have... So you could catch survivors on doing their 4th or 5th generator if they're not gen rush stratting. So this would instantly regress a 4th or 5th gen being done. I don't think that it's going to really help them much. They're going to end up losing like maybe 20% off of a generator. But I mean, if you can time the activations right, well, if you can get them to time the activations right and reset the 4th or 5th gen being done, that's kind of high tier. The only problem is you're only resetting 1 generator with the most progress. Instead of doing something to all of the generators or decreasing them. Like, I would rather have a 25% reduction in all generators. And if the generator has no, like, progress on it, it just blocks the generator for like 10 seconds, as opposed to having 1 generator lose 70% regression. That's just not very worthwhile. But I guess that's just me personally. I mean, it's not a bad perk, but I can't really say it's a good perk either. There are a lot of perks that you can use to pressure generators throughout the entirety of the trial. This kind of goes with the lethal pursuer and corrupt intervention and things like that. Types of builds. To where if you use them in the correct way, it's very valuable to you. However, if you're not, then it's kind of like, fuck, dude. You know, if you can force a 3-gen situation that are close and run between them, you can go and send yourself off to try and get an extra survivor, knowing that they're going to work on that generator. And when that time runs up, 70% of that generator's progress is going to go down, meaning they have to restart again. And if you're looking for like 3-gen situations or using this in a very niche way, or like an end game build, for example, if they're working on the 5th generator and you're setting up for the end game and all of that, you can reset that. Go set traps at exit gates if you're the trapper, for example, and then the time that you'll get back, a lot more time than you use doing that. Things like that. So it has its uses. I'm not going to say that it's bad. It's just like corrupt intervention and things like that. You just got to kind of use it with the proper build. On the other end of that, the oblivious status effect and having their aura revealed is just kind of an overused trope at this point. I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, 30 seconds is kind of ridiculous, and there's no time limit to the aura revealing and all of that. But it's like, meh, meh, very meh. Instead of the oblivious status effect and all of that, and or actually instead of the aura reading, I would rather the gen explode and get like 5% value on any other generators knocked off the top, and them suffer like 20 seconds oblivious instead. But this perk can be balanced in a whole bunch of different ways, or it can stay the same with just the additives of the aura revealed seconds. And cut this down from 30 seconds to a little bit less, and it'd be alright. New survivor, Oliver Gibbons. Nationality, Dutch Irish. I didn't know Dutch Irish was a nationality. Personality, selfish, loner. Perks, everybody for themselves. Wow, 32, 24, 16 meters away from other survivors, you gain an... Wait, hold up. Nah, never mind. I'll wait. Away from other survivors, you gain an 8% repair speed bonus when not using a toolbox and now have a 33% chance of unhooking yourself. So this sounds like a slippery meat upgrade, honestly. I don't know where the 33% chance of unhooking yourself come from, but that is interesting to say the least. So 32 meters away from other survivors, which goes to 24 meters, which goes to 16 meters. My question is, why the hell are you scaling distance of meters away from other survivors instead of the repair speed bonus? Because even a 10% repair speed bonus only gives you 8 additional seconds on a generator. The real bonus of that is having a 33% chance to unhook yourself. But in that case, why don't you buy the character that has deliverance and you can literally get off of the hook whenever you want? I mean, you'll suffer the broken status effect and there's an activation for it, but you can still get off whenever you want, and you can just run a toolbox and get a higher speed bonus. Oh, that was fucking disgusting. Alrighty then. So everybody for themselves just kind of makes me question mark. I mean, it's nice having repair speed bonuses, don't get me wrong. But if I can't use a toolbox, then it's like, brother, the repair speed bonus, from the toolbox, giving me a 50% repair speed, even if it's only for like 15 seconds, still is more worthwhile than the 8% passive. But I guess the 8% passive goes after the toolbox expires. But if you ever worked with a toolbox and a generator, the symbols for the toolbox stay until you let go, even after the toolbox expires. So you still do get some sort of passive bonuses from the effects of a toolbox, even after it goes bong and disappears. But anyway, I don't know how I feel about that. If this was everybody can get perk, it wouldn't be that bad, I guess is where I'm at. But why would I potentially purchase this survivor for a perk that comes that does this when there are a lot better perks in the game? I mean, it's nice having a 33% chance to unhook yourself. That's almost 1 in 3 chance. Almost. It's not 33.3% repeating, which still isn't technically a third, but it's almost a third chance. The house always wins, so that 0.3 repeating all the way goes to the house. But you do have 3 attempts, and if you scale this with slippery meat, which would give you over the 33% chance, you have a very high amount of chance to escape that. I mean, each attempt you have a 33% chance, but I mean, if you have, 4 attempts at that, you're probably going to escape more times than not. So again, if this is an everybody can use perk, then I could say yes, but part of a particular survivor, I don't know about that, because you'd have to run it with slippery meat to ensure that you get these activations off the hook every time. And again, there's no negative for this huge amount of escape percentages. So this perk needs to be scaled towards the huge amount of escape percentages. This is just a nice passive, the speed increase. However, the 33% chance of unhooking yourself is where everything comes into play. And also, if any survivors come within 16 meters of you, you lose your 33% chance of escaping. So you gotta kind of make the decision to try to go for the alley-oop before anybody comes for you. And hope that nobody else is in the area when you try to go for the alley-oop, or you're just going to be doomed to fail. Which means you have to wait for the killer to go away from you, and you have to hope that nobody immediately runs to you for an unhook. Scary. I think 33% is kind of way too high, especially because you have other luck-based perks and everything like that that you can run together to get yourself off. So definitely add some sort of penalty to this perk that covers the 33% chance, and you might be on the road or something. Broken promise. If another survivor is injured by any means within 8 meters of you, broken promise activates. You gain 10% haste for 3 seconds. This perk then goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. Well, this is like the ultimate perk, cowardice. Oh no, Johnny got hit. I'm out of here. 10% speed, by the way, brings you up to 4.4 meters per second for a survivor. 3 seconds, more than enough. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that 30-second cooldown, though. Might want to increase that to 45, 50, and then 60. 45-second cooldown makes more sense than 30. Yeah, 45 definitely makes more sense than 30. The reason I say that is, for example, say the killer is being chased or chasing your lead runner or all that. You walk in or you walk by, for example, you body block and you take a hit for that particular survivor so the killer loses their bloodlust and all of that. The looper then gets 10% haste status effect for 3 seconds to go about, do whatever they need to do, etc., etc. So let's say a survivor's on their last hook and you're going to save them and they're running this perk. You take the hit, that survivor speeds off into, the ether doing whatever. Another survivor comes in and assists you. You run off into the distance and you speed off. Another survivor comes in and helps them. They take the hit. The other person speeds off into the distance. By that time, the other person that initially got out can easily heal themselves. But if you put a gap of about 45 seconds in between that, that stops them from having an indefinite chain of hit taking to speeds out to swapping to a hit to a speed out to a swap. Because the person that got hit can easily use dead hard and all of that to get that health state back, or they can be running a perk like overcome, for example. He takes the hit, he overcomes away, the other person gets a haste status effect for 3 seconds. Both of them zoom away in different directions, and the killer's just like, damn, what do I do now? And if the killer elects to not swing at the second person, the dead person's just going to keep running in front of the killer, body blocking them and slowing them down. So if you can kind of stop that perk from activating as much. 60 seconds is probably way too much, but I think 45 seconds is probably right around the right spot to keep that from being an infinite chain of activations. Another way to prevent this, which is why I explained the situation first, is broken status effect can happen after that, or a deep wound status effect can happen after that, or some other status effect can proc after that as well, to try and prevent chains and exploits and things like that. Or to just write in your particular perk that when this perk activates, it cancels the effects of all other perks. So you're essentially leaving them to die. Like, for example, when Broken Promise activates, your wherever the hell it is that got injured gets the exhausted status effect or something, I don't know, for a second or whatever, so they don't get the activation of whatever the hell they're looking for. So you can't double zoom. Probably not explaining this well, but you know what I'm saying? To prevent somebody from using overcome to speed off into the horizon, and then the other person speed off into the horizon as well. But again, as I always say, I'm spitballing. I haven't sat down, designed it, tested it, or anything like that. That's for the creator to go in and look at that and redesign on their own. I'm just a suggestion man and a reviewer. That's all I do. Take the advice if you want to, ignore it if you want to. It doesn't affect me either way. I'm just trying to improve your product or give you an honest review in some cases of your product, either or. Out of sight. After coming out of a locker, you leave no scratch marks and your ore is hidden for 30 seconds. Lockers make no noise when you enter or exit slowly. Okay, that is a buff of Meg's perk. And it has Deception and Meg's perk all mixed together with Vigil on top of it. So Quick and Quiet, Deception, and Vigil, all jammed into one perk. You already know how I feel about combining perks, so I'm just going to say no here already. And comments. If you want to see the comments, I recommend you go to the creative forum. A link should be in the description. Click on it. Go to the Divergent Destiny. It should be towards the top, and you can read all the nice comments and everything. Right there by Jive Talking. Also, Galanonim, I'm surprised you're still here. It's starting to get late. I guess it is Sunday. It is indeed a Sunday. My this is the one that caught my attention. He said original chapter idea. This is the one that I'm probably gonna meme about a little bit because first he called it original. So if it's original, there shouldn't be any copies of anything else in this particular post. Right after that says pigs get slaughtered. Pig is already a killer in Dead by Daylight. So saying it like that seems real bad. Like you're making Amanda into a survivor or something like that. Which I mean, Amanda was a participant in the Saw game, so I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to make her a survivor at one point in time. You know, the entity, the story being the entity thought that she wasn't a good enough killer, so they made her a survivor. So she could get back her killer instincts or something like that and have her unlocked as a survivor. Would be nice. Or something like that. She could be the first character that's a dual killer slash dual survivor. Even though people think Meg is part of the Legion. And Nail's the entity. But either way, killer, Jack Frost. I ain't even made it one. I didn't even make it one sentence into your actual creation. And it's already not original. Like, come on, man. Don't put something like original chapter idea if it's not actually an original chapter idea. It's not original at all. I made it one sentence. Killer Jack Frost. Already. You failed originality. But Jack K. Frostman, average slash tall. You can't be average slash tall. Bulky like Nemesis when tall. Oh, you're using the old transformation dick. Well, it depends on what Jack Frost you're talking about. Because there was a Jack Frost that was a human killer, and then there was also the Jack Frost, evil snowman. So I think he's probably combined together, having an average slash tall. Probably could be both. I don't know. Let's find out. Movement speed, 4.6 meters per second. And I use the word human loosely when I say that. 4.6 meters per second movement speed, 32 meters tear radius. Weapon is apparently a gigantic X. He just carries the letter X around, bopping survivors. All jokes aside, abilities. Icicle Frost. During chase, Icicle Frost activates automatically and lasts for 60 seconds. This ability recharges when outside of a chase. This ability leaves a trail of ice in your wake that causes survivors to slide, lose friction when running over it, and prevents fast or medium vaults while sliding. Every 60 seconds that your power is used, you gain a token. After 3 tokens, you may use your climactic power, Black Doom, which instantly uses 3 tokens. So this is a passive called Icicle Frost, which, I mean, an icicle is a frozen, I wouldn't say droplet of water, but it's like a frozen stalactite of water. So I don't understand why it's icicle frost and not anything indicative to like black ice or something like that that's, slippery on the ground. But anyway, when outside of a chase, it builds up. We don't know how fast it builds up, how much time you need to spend outside of a chase, and this is important, very important to this killer, to know how long it takes to get a token when out of chase. Because that wait time is factored into actual gen completion time and keeping, pressure on survivors. So that is something that you really need to implement, because I cannot give you a proper review over this particular aspect of Icicle Frost. If it recharges fast, like a chainsaw or something like that, and it's negligible, then okay, that's different. But then in that case, you're going to always have 3 tokens, so you would be able to activate Black Doom anytime you get into an actual chase as well. So they really need to say how long that it takes. And each particular activation of Icicle Frost lasts for 60 seconds. I don't know if that's 20 seconds a token, which I'm going to assume because there's 3 tokens and it lasts for 60 seconds. I don't know how the tokens are consumed and all of that, but I'm just going to go off of what you said. You can have a maximum of 3 tokens, possibly. It doesn't say, but I'm going to assume a max of 3 tokens. And each token lasts for 20 seconds of Icicle Frost or for 60 seconds of Black Doom. I'm making a lot of assumptions here because I don't know anything about this, but that's what I'm kind of just setting down for this review basis. And it's very important how long it takes for you to build up your power to Black Doom, because I don't know what it does. If it's OP, it's going to have to take longer, obviously. Because if it's minor, you're talking about, 20 seconds a token, something like that. If it's major, you might be looking at like a minute a token. After you get this, as you're chasing a particular survivor, you leave this trail that makes survivors slide. What is this sliding? Do they continue at 4 meters per second, just out of control? It also says prevents fast or medium vaults. I assume, since it says while sliding, the killer would have to jump through a particular window, or at least leave a trail to the window to prevent the survivor from making any fast vaults. Things like that. So, this particular power is only good as if you're fully committing the loops and chasing that survivor everywhere they go instead of cutting off loops. Because a little slip every now and then isn't going to really help you in catching that survivor. But if you fully commit and chase them around the survivor loops, if they try to take that loop again, they're going to run into issues. Obviously, you can do meta things like running a trail horizontally or parallel to a window and make it to where survivors will keep sliding past the windows, unlike Kill Shack, and they won't ever be able to take the window because they'll slide past it. And if they do try to go out and around, they'll slide into the window and then do a slow vault, letting the killer get them. Just one thing that you can do with this killer's power. But that also is indicative to the fact that you have to be the one to run that particular area there to put that down there. So you would have to chase that survivor all the way along the kill shack and then back through and through the window in order to get that trail there. You would have to go in a straight line from door to door. So if the survivor runs through the door, they could be, bent towards the other door, but they still keep their speed, I'm assuming, as they're slipping, because it just says friction goes away. So they should continuously go or move at the same speed. It's going to be a rather difficult power to use and keep the survivors contained in the area that you're using it on. Once you run through the loop, the survivor might as well drop whatever pallet it is and go to the next, loop at that point, or they're going to be slipping, sliding everywhere. Now, exploits for this is if a survivor crouches or does anything like that, it can probably end up being a very significant exploit because of how the game works. You can reduce your slide speed and do things like that and crouch and get up and do, walk instead of running over ice, etc., to still essentially get the vaults that you're trying to prevent. So you're also going to have to worry about that as well. Because I don't know how you're going to prevent them from fast vaulting or medium vaulting unless you give them the incapacitated status effect while they're standing on the particular ice. And if you're doing that, then you're going to have to make it to where your trail can't be anywhere near generators, or you can prevent survivors for 60 seconds from working on generators. So any loop that contains a generator, your ice trail isn't going to be able to go inside of, which makes sense because the generator produces heat. So you also gotta look at that as well. Let's look at Black Doom. To use Black Doom, you must activate it with mouse 2, which is the power button. We use the power button, not mouse 1, mouse 2, because every console plays. Even phone nowadays. Mobile. This causes a transformation that takes 4 seconds. Once completed, you change height and become tall. Your movement speed is now 5.2 meters per second and bloodlust is disabled. While in this state, you can't vault and drop pallets. You can't vault and drop pallets can be attacked. Probably break them. Black Doom deactivates after 60 seconds of use and your previous appearance is restored. So you're giving this killer a movement speed of 5.2 meters per second. That is 1.2 meters per second faster than regular survivor speed. And the only negative that they have to this speed increase, that last 60 seconds, by the way, is you can't vault or drop pallet, or you can't vault anything. I don't know if 60 seconds is really worthy of that. I think you might want to lift that down to like 30 seconds half the time. That is a huge increase of speed. So what I would propose is drop this down to 30 seconds and then give him some sort of ranged attack or a special attack under this that you can use while in that form. To try and keep this power tighter. The top of my mind, I really want to say decrease the power to about 20 seconds. Because this is essentially like Legion's power. Except for you can't vault quickly. You can just break pallets. But having that increased movement speed and all of that, even Legion with his enhanced movement and all of that, it's kind of getting along, where he can go. Again, all of this is indicative to me not knowing how long it takes to get a token. If it takes a while to get a token, obviously my opinions of the time and speed and all of this change. But if it's something that you can activate all the time because you get tokens quickly, then it's also different. So you not giving me the base of information is making me have conflicting opinions and all of that. And all of my review from thus far on would change depending on how the tokens and all of that come into effect. I'm going to leave this right here. I'll be back in a second. Feel free to read. All right. All right. Perks. Hmm. You know what? I'm going to leave the backstory of a Saint Nicholas here. And I do apologize, but I do have to be back again. I was going to try and finish this up, but then I figured that it's not fair to this particular content creator or this creative. The guy that made this particular creation. It's not fair to him for me to try and hurry this up. So here's the backstory. I'm going to be gone for like maybe 4 or 5 minutes and then I shall be back. I am back. I took an extra 2 minutes reading an email that I got. Well, there's already been a gap. So, while I was gone, I got an email. And I was like, oh, it's from a fan, you know. Who else would it be from? Well, I wouldn't say a fan, but it's from another person. And they provided a lot of backhanded compliments and statements, which again, ain't gonna get through to me. Essentially, through a long list of backhanded statements and compliments, they basically said that I'm lazy, I don't take my reviews seriously, my content could be better if I put forth more effort, and things along those lines. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and answer the questions now, because I mean, if they sent me the particular email, I figured I would answer it earnestly. 1. Keep in mind that I am a professional reviewer. I have 4.5 stars. It's actually gone up since then. Or 4.5 stars. I review products for companies and things that are coming out, new products, some old products, a whole bunch of different things. The mainstream games, I have reviewed content from them. I've reviewed content for websites. I've reviewed products that have been sent to me, and all of which I have been paid fairly handsomely for, because I am very, very good at what I do when it comes to reviewing. But keep in mind, it's the motivation to do the reviews. Now, I, for one, I'm not super money hungry or anything like that. And what I'm going to say is going to sound like that, and it's going to sound arrogant. However, when I do my Dead by Daylight reviews, the ones that you claim that, you know, the ones that I actually take time to do, if I do them, I put in the effort on reviews that people put effort into. If it's a long, drawn out, thought about, actually original thing that somebody has spent time creating and developing, I will give it more time and give it a longer and earnest review. But if it's just the regular, average killer concept where they throw out a couple of things here or there and they pepper it here or there, or if it's just a copy and paste of somebody else's work or something like that, I'm not going to give it a long, thought out review. If I click into your particular creation and I scroll down from top to bottom and you have like 20 sentences, that's it. Or if your creation looks dull because you couldn't go through and use the headings and bolding things here or there, italicize things or there, or separate different aspects and categories of your particular creation, I'm not going to do it. Because if you take the time, and the people that do take their time, that spend the time to create said creations and all of that, generally go through and touch everything up cosmetically and make it very easy to read. Now, their formula and all of that, we might not agree to eye to eye, but notice that the ones that are well thought out and just look like crap, I do make a comment here or there about how this could be laid out better, except I still take the long amount of time to go through the reviews. See, the reviews I do are one, for free. So again, if nobody puts any effort into their creation, why would I, for free, go in and do a review over your particular creation that you put no time or effort into? Why waste my time at that point? If you put effort into it, I'm more than happy to do your particular review. Other content regarding my channel, separate from the Dead by Daylight portion, it's all done for me. I've mentioned multiple times throughout this that my particular YouTube channel is, well, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're on, is my archive for me to look back into in the future and say, hey, I did that, or I was there at that part of my life, or hey, that was a sick, triple flip reset, or a sick musty that I hit that day. Or if Rocket League gets canceled, I can go back and be like, hey, I remember when Rocket League sucked ass, or something like that. Reason I started this channel was because during the SOCOM days, when everything was fun and all of the other things that were going on and the community games and everybody that I met, my memory's fucked. I don't remember most of any of that. I can tell you the people's names and all of that because, looking at somebody's screen name forever, you don't meet a lot of people who you see every day. Which is why when we play Rocket League, if it's somebody's name that pops up all the time, I'm like, hey, it's that guy. Because I see it all the time. You know what I'm saying? The things I remember are just through habit. You spend a year or two with the same people talking the same thing, you're going to remember who they are. I don't remember most of the days that involve them, but I remember who they are and whether or not I like them or not, the essential things that I need for if I run into them again. Compartmentalization is what it's called. Just the more positive and efficient aspect of it. But my channel isn't made to become popular. I'm not going to be sitting here for 8 hours straight editing content and recording content, buying an editor or buying editing tools and then editing that down to make it look like eye candy for everybody else. If it's something I undertook, like for example a Dead by Daylight creation, and I took it to the extreme to post it, then I would eventually go back in and start doing things, start going in, start making it look nice, things like that. Ignore my very first post because, well, I was a dumbass and I just literally went on and posted whatever idea came into my head. But I've only posted once. I learned after the first post that, hey, this is a little bit more serious. When I first came in, I came in like everybody else, and I'm not going to say made a fool of myself, but I didn't put up a very good creation because I didn't know what that particularly consisted of. Back then, I looked at other people's creations and I just kind of went with the flow to see what I could get the best of. Somewhere around that. It turned out all right, but I never went back to it to touch it up or finish it or anything because I'd never had the intention of actually finishing and posting a creation. I just kind of wanted to have an idea of, this is sort of what I'm going for. If anybody wants to finish it, take it. But anyway, that's about where I'm at. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that I know there are other things in life that are better. Why in the fuck would I waste my time putting on a mask and acting like somebody who I'm not? Spend a little bit of extra money I have not invested to buy editing equipment and a webcam and all of that, put on a fake facade, and basically act for the general public. I am not an actor. I am not a puppet, and I am not fake. I am who I am. The people that like me love me. The people that hate me or dislike me, hate me. That's just how it is. When you meet me in real life or when you meet me online, you'll either have a very good first impression and you'll want to become very good friends with me, or you'll absolutely hate my goddamn guts and never come near me again. I'm fine with that. I am absolutely positively fine with that. But to have somebody who never looked at my content, even though you said you've been a long fan, because I've talked about this subject a lot of times, that this is my own personal archive. When I do my reviews, I'm pretty sure I explain fairly well what I'm talking about most times and all of that. And it's been, deeds, not words, as Badland Chug says. I've done deeds and showed you that if you put time and effort into a project, I'm going to give you the time and effort to review it. And if you don't, I'm not going to give you the time of day. I look at what you put out, and then I decide how much I'm going to give you versus whatever you put out. That's part of the reviews. If you want to compensate for that, then pay me. If you're going to be lazy, then pay me. I will give you some comprehensive shit if you want to be lazy, and I can even help you and assist you in making your own creation and make it flourish. But you're going to pay me to do that. Because you're lazy by base, which means I got to go out of my way to do something for you. And you're going to pay me for that service. But if you have a thought process down and you've spent time working on it and you ask me for advice or to assist you, I would do that for free. You're standing on your own legs. You just need a little bit of advice, a little bit of creative help. I'd do that for free. But I don't help lazy people. Anyway, I'm going to hop back into this creation review and we can continue on. Survivor, St. Nicholas. Perks, Holiday Spirit. You know how to prepare for the inevitable scarcity and hardship that winter brings. That's not Holiday Spirit. Well, this perk is inactive. Normal skill checks on generators regress the generator by 3%. And for every great skill check, gain a token. After achieving 3 tokens, this perk activates and normal skill checks are considered great skill checks until the generator is completed, and which this perk deactivates. Great skill checks that are completed while this perk is inactive grant an additional 5% bonus progression. Oh boy. He needs me hanky. He needs some milk now to teach him about, Mr. Hanky, to teach him about Christmas spirit. Definitely. That's whoo. Whoo. Somebody might want to check up on him at Christmas. He might be dealing with some depression or something. So this perk, if I suss this out correctly, I probably shouldn't say the word sus because it brings memes, but when the perk is inactive, hitting normal skill checks regress the generator 3%. But every time you get a great skill check, you gain a token. Then when you get 3 tokens or hit 3 great skill checks, all normal skill checks are great skill checks until the generator's completed. So if you are a guru and can hit great skill checks back to back to back, this perk can help you in the long run, albeit very slightly. And if you don't or can't hit great skill checks, or if the killer somehow influences skill checks, you are going to have a hell of a time because you're going to be losing or regressing your own generator. So this is a very high risk versus reward, but it has nothing to do with holiday spirit, which is weird. I wouldn't recommend anybody to run this perk, honestly. And I don't understand why it's designed this way. Yeah, I just don't understand why it's designed that way. Normal skill checks regress the skill or regress the generator by 3%. So if you just are working on a generator, every time you get a skill check, that's 3% back, 3% back here, 3% back here, 3% back here. I mean, it's not a lot. Because I mean, it's like 2 seconds and some change every time you get a skill check. But it's also going to get annoying if you just happen to get a fuck ton of skill checks. Losing 2 or so seconds, 2 and some change seconds. Round it down, let's just say 2 seconds per every skill check, because you can't get all the great skill checks required, isn't going to counteract when the perk comes and, works, and then the regular skill checks are great skill checks. So I don't see the balance of this being positive in any way, shape, or form. But if you do get great skill checks while the thing's inactive, the first three that you hit, you're getting 5% bonus progression. So you can get 15% on that generator, which is, what, 12 seconds? Somewhere around 12 seconds, easily, excuse me, from the start. But that's if you didn't miss any great skill checks. So if you miss more than 6 great skill checks, then this perk is basically not very useful to you. I think this can be redesigned to make more sense, is what I'm going to leave that at. Because that's a mess of a perk. And also, don't use things of perk being inactive and perk being active. Just use the token system. There's no point in activating a perk and deactivating a perk. Use tokens. Design it to work with tokens. Something very simple that you can do is every great skill check you get a token. Every normal skill check you get, you lose a token. Every time you hit a great skill check, you increase the speed at which you repair the generator. Every time you lose a token, something happens. Or you lose that progression. Either or. Or somewhere along those lines. Again, I'm just spitballing at this point, but something to actually keep this perk running smoothly and not activating and deactivating the perk. It's just weird. Streamlining. You have a firm understanding of machines. While working on a generator, you can instantly repair it by 1% per successful skill check and a burst, like a yellow glyph, of difficult skill checks up to a maximum of 5% per use. Using this ability inflicts you with the exhausted status effect for 90 seconds. This perk is an exhaustion perk and cannot be used while exhausted. If you can't use this perk while exhausted, then what the hell's the point, for one? 2, you're taking the exhausted status effect for 90 seconds to get 5%. That's 4 seconds of gen time. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, what? As soon as you touch a generator, you get the Fury effect that Sadako has, or the brand new part that you can get from a toolbox. And this perk only gives you 5% gen, so an extra 4 seconds. So essentially, if you and another person's working on a particular gen together, it counter out the efficiency. So you're getting zero point 0.1 efficiency on a gen, is essentially what you're getting. That's crazy. Absolutely no. And then 90 seconds of exhaustion for that 4 seconds? You can get out of here with that. You can make this particular perk activate every single gen that you go to, and it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Every single gen that you went to for the first time you interacted with it, you can have that be a thing, and it wouldn't change the game at all. The exhaustion effect's too much, brother. Working on a gen should let your exhaustion go down, not go up. Especially if they have Fearmonger. You would be exhausted basically the entirety of the game if they're running Fearmonger. Because you would be exhausted while you're on the generator, so your exhaustion status effect would never recover. And as you're walking back and forth between generators, you would be running to the next generator, and then you would be fearmongered again. And you have 90 seconds worth of time you need to be sitting still. So anybody running fearmonger essentially keeps you from losing your exhausted status effect. Or you could stand still for 90 seconds, which is basically a completion of a generator, and be that guy. So no. Again, just mm-mm. This would be an amazing perk for a killer. I mean, it'd have to be nerfed, but this would be amazing for a killer. Give them 5%, then keep them exhausted for the rest of the match, basically. Shit. Attention deficit. We're talking about St. Nicholas here, with the terrible holiday spirit, a streamline and understanding of machines and all of that, and attention deficit. I feel like something here ain't right. Your lack of focus gives you awareness of your situation. How? That's called an oxymoron, right? You don't know him. This is true. I do not know him. He's been long since dead for a long time. But that's an oxymoron, right? I think is the correct word. Like if you say you're the nicest, meanest thing in the world, or something crazy like that, a contradicting statement, that's an oxymoron. At least I think that's the definition of oxymoron. I'm not entirely sure. It could be another word, and I'm thinking of something different. But your lack of focus gives you awareness of your situation. It's an act that's an oxymoron. Anyway, every time a generator is completed, a random aura of the following is revealed and tracked once per trial for you for the next 15 seconds. A hex totem, basement chest, dropped item with charges, generator greater than 75%, or the killer, or the hatch. That is way too much random things that can be tracked. So you're telling me that if I'm lucky, I can get hatch location revealed to me. Yeah, oxymoron is something that contradicts. All right, I'm correct. Thank you for that. Makes me feel good. So yeah, that's definitely an oxymoron. This perk, I mean, if you're running a map and I guess you wanted something to go with the map, oh no, that's not good either because there's the perk that reveals the three furthest or closest generators. Three generators that are closest to each other. Yeah, like dry water. There you go. Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes sense. But yeah, there's things that show totems. There's things that show basically all of these that you could run with the map and generally have all of these on your map. If a generator is completed and I see the basement chest, for example, I'm going to be pissed. If a gen completes and I see a hex totem, all right, we're getting somewhere. A dropped item with charges, probably going to be pissed. Because unless it's a Franklin's Demise situation, that means it's going to be an empty item. A generator with 75% progress done, probably going to be pissed because we said that 10% of a generator is 8 seconds. So you're looking at 24 plus 4, 28 seconds left on a generator. It's going to be completed by the time you get there. I'm going to be pissed. Seeing the killer. I'm probably going to be pissed. Seeing the hatch, high tier. But I'm not entirely sure how I'd feel about seeing the killer for 15 seconds after a gen's done. I mean, if the killer's running towards me, yes, that could be helpful. But also, if the killer's running towards me after I complete a generator, by the time the 15 seconds is up, the killer's going to be just now arriving, or they're going to be chasing somebody else. So it's kind of like they're going to come for me anyway, they're going to find me anyway. But it can be useful. The hatch location is the winning thing, but I mean, it's like, bruh, if you know where the hatch is gonna spawn, then it's basically a free win for you. You just hide and wait for them to finish up the trial or, die, and then you just hop in the hatch. You have 5 different variants of things, and you have, what, 5 different things? Well, hex totem, chest, item, generator, and killer, and hatch. So you have a 1 in 5 chance that all of these happen. And if you have a very bad spread, this could be bad for you. Basement chest, everybody knows where the basement chest is, so that's a negative draw. A dropped item with charges, probably a negative draw. A generator with 75%, it's probably a negative draw. So the hex totem, the killer is about a neutral draw, depending on situation, but the hex totem's high tier, and the hatch is high tier. But how are you going to be able to show the hatch's aura? Because I don't think the hatch is even spawned in the match in the beginning anymore. I think it's actually just a random spawn that happens when everything else happens, just to save on assets. The hatch used to be spawned pre in the trial and all of that, but I think it's different now. It's better to load the hatch in when all the assets are gone, aka the other survivors and them activate or interacting with everything, than to have the hatch loaded and basically not doing anything to the end of the match. And if they never get to the point to where the hatch is used, then the hatch is just an asset that's loaded, taking up space that doesn't need to be taken up. So attention deficit, hatch really isn't something that you could really say. So if we removed that and made it 5, you're going to be able to see the killer for 15 seconds, a gen, an item, a basement chest, or a hex totem. So out of that, you can find a hex totem, or you could just run the hex perk, or the perk that finds totem. They call it like dark sense, or no, it's the other one. Not dark sense, it's the other one that I can't ever remember. Or if you want to find the killer, you can run dark sense or the other perk, and you can run a key to find the killer with the key, and you can have both of those without really giving up much. So Change this for the totem finding perk. Run a key with the add-on to let you see the killer. Bada bing, bada boom. You got two happy examples there. And if you want to see the hatch, run Bill's perk, I think it is, that lets you see the hatch when you're within X amount of meters. Done. I must say, Galanonim, I like your RNG perk better than this RNG perk, because, oof. That one's kind of rough. So I will re-congratulate you on putting up a good perk. Because now you've sort of seen kind of a, I ain't gonna say it's bad, but a lower tier version of RNG. What in the actual hell? Nick's teddy bear as an iridescent item. I'm just gonna read it, bro. I can't make head. A seemingly ordinary plushie that has been modified to entertain children with different noises and sound. Now it serves a different purpose. Pressing the active ability button near a rushed action that would usually make a loud noise will create the loud noise without completing the interaction. Don't make sense. It can only imitate sounds that you have made while holding the item during the trial. It has a capacity of 10 charges. The charges used in items that can be imitated are listed below. Rushed Vault, 1 charge. Pallet Drop, 2 charges. Rushed Locker Enter, 3 charges for whatever reason. Failed Skill Check, delayed by 10 seconds, 4 charges. Press anywhere to make a crow sound, delayed by 10 seconds and heard from any distance, 5 seconds. This item has a cooldown of 5 seconds. My brain. So, it don't make sense, this to this. It says here, pressing the active ability button near a rushed action that would generally make a loud noise will create the loud noise without completing the interaction. But you are still making that interaction noise where you're standing at. Why would I walk to a window and make the window go kapunk? It makes no sense to me. This killer still knows where I'm at and what I'm doing. It can only imitate sounds that you have made while holding the item during the trial. So at first, I thought that they were going to make it to where, you essentially take the sound from that, and then you can set off the sound wherever you want. You sit the titty there, you sit the teddy there, and you can make, the teddy produce a specific sound, or you squeeze the teddy and it makes a specific sound. But instead, this is some backwards, crazy engineering type of, I don't know. And then here it says press anywhere to make a crow sound. What is a crow sound? I mean, if you make it go, crows don't make any type of notifications unless you're using, spies from the shadow. So giving it and making it use a crow sound isn't going to do much for a killer that's walking around. It's also delayed by 10 seconds. So whenever you click the button, you have to wait 10 seconds and then the sound happens. So I don't get it. If I use the rushed vault thing, I'm wasting a charge because it can only be used at the rushed vaults. If I use it at the pallet drop, it can only be used at the pallet drop. If I use it at a locker, why not just run deception and save your 3 charges there? And then failed skill checks, I guess you would use it on a generator, and then 10 seconds from now, it would blow the generator. Or actually act like it's blowing the generator. But if the generator's completed, then you can't even use that. So it's diversion, or whichever one's the whale that blows the generator. But it doesn't actually do it. And then anywhere after 10 seconds, they can be heard by any, wait. Yeah, it can be heard from any distance. You can make a crow sound. So everybody in the map just hears a random crow sound. What? It's not or it's not directional. So you won't be able to tell where the hell the crow sound's coming from because everybody can hear it at any distance. I'm so confused at the usefulness of this particular item. If it worked how I thought it was going to work, that would have been interesting. You can essentially store up the sound using charges and then use that sound, and then it goes away. I wouldn't give it a capacity of 10 charges. I would give it the capacity of 1 sound, and then give it an add-on that lets it use another sound, or something along those lines. But I don't, I'm not going to go over, like, rework this and re-list some of these to actually make them make sense. I thought when I started talking about some things, I was confusing people, but good God. And that is the end of the Dead by Daylight reviews. So, that was a big ass bug that just flew by me. Like, god damn. But anyway, I am going to fire up Aratus, Lord of the Dead. We are going to go through and redo that battle that I did yesterday. And that's about it. Play through to the boss, restart another run, go to the higher difficulty level, try and get that up to that same spot, and see how far we can go on a second attempt at the higher difficulty level. That is my plans for today. So, that is the end of the Dead by Daylight portion. The stream will be stopped, and then I will restart the stream when I have Aratus and all of that set up. Twitch will be included as well. So, thank you anybody for stopping by. As always, Galanonim, I appreciate you stopping by as well. As always, supplement your lifestyle, and I will see you next time. You going to bed? Sounds good, man. Peace. It's been a while too. It's like 4:30 my time, so yeah, it's late for you. Well, you know what I mean.